Good evening, ghoulies and ghosties and long-leggedy beasties. This is Alex coming at you from the underworld, and welcome back to another episode of... First off, I simply want to say I hope you're doing well during the coronavirus scare. And secondly, I would like to address this as well. I understand over Memorial Day weekend, a racial injustice happened. And because of that, we're seeing protests and riots that are springing up. And I simply want to say that if you are in a protest or you find yourself in a riot, I hope you remain healthy and I hope you're able to walk away unharmed. And as far as the criminals who did the racial injustice over Memorial Day weekend, I hope that justice is served and we can all walk away from this as more of a unified group of people, and we're just simply able to love and accept one another a lot more than what we already do. So I'm just putting those positive vibes out there. But I would like to go in and talk about what we are going to review for the month of June, which June is Pride Month, so happy Pride, everyone. As you see, I'm in my Pride shirt, so representing. And I know that for a lot of people, they go to Pride parades and picnics. Personally, I'm a homebody, so I don't get mixed into big crowds, but I understand it probably sucks for you not to be able to go to those events this year due to the coronavirus. So hopefully we can just celebrate Pride together with these videos, which I do have a lineup planned for horror authors that are a part of the GLBTQ community. And to start off with, I would like to focus on the transgender part of that community with the author Poppy Z. Brite. Now, this is the first time I've ever read Brite, and I understand a lot of people say that the gateway drug to Brite is the book Exquisite Corpse, which that's in my to-be-read pile, but I really wanted to read a short story collection first by this author just so I could see the author's diversity. And I honestly have to say, I was not disappointed whatsoever. And it is something where I have totally planned to read the rest of Brite's books, especially the horror books. And as far as the book I'm reviewing this weekend, it is Are You Loathsome Tonight, which is a play on Are You Lonesome Tonight. But with this book, it really feels like it's a good, diverse mixture of everything that's horror, gothic, comedic, and even erotic at sometimes. But with that said, let's go in and jump into what you can expect with this awesome gothic collection. Are You Loathsome Tonight by Poppy Z. Brite is available in print and ebook, so getting your hands on a copy is not hard to do whatsoever. And as far as the stories are concerned in this, we have 12 stories, and the author has decided to go an extra mile here and give us some insight as to what inspired the stories. So before you begin a tale in this book, you have a little author's note that's about half a page to page long that tells you a little bit more on why the story was written and if it had been published before. And I really considered that to be an insightful treat, and it was something that I really enjoyed as I read through the book. Now, as far as the stories are concerned, they are all connected with what I feel is a gothic theme. And some of the stories are horror, but then others are drama, suspense, even erotica, and some dark comedy. But to show you the range this author has, like the first story is taken from the perspective of a maggot. Then as the book progresses, we have some ghost stories, some stories about sex gone wrong, and then there's a story that reminded me of Jeffrey Dahmer, but there was a really weird twist at the end that made the story just super creepy as hell. And as the book continued from there, we got some kind of stories that had jokes to them. And by the time I got to the end of the book, the final story was this really grotesque take on Elvis's death. So yeah, this is a very big mixed bag of treats. My top 3 favorite stories of Are You Loathsome Tonight are Self-Made Man, Pin Money, and Saved, which Brite wrote Saved with Christina Faust. The first story I want to focus on is Self-Made Man, which was written for the anthology Book of the Dead 3. However, due to a long line of complications, the anthology fell through the cracks of the literary world. Also, this story was written during Brite's most infamous novel, Exquisite Corpse, where Brite says it was an opportunity to purge some Dahmer mania. My second favorite story, which is Pin Money, seems to be a prequel to the story Triads, which Brite wrote with Christina Faust. And while they shared an equal amount of writing to this story, one of the lead characters that Brite breathed life into found himself in this particular story 2 years later. And the final story I want to shine light on is Saved, which Christina Faust praised Brite by saying although their writing styles differ, they are also complementary. Also, the two shared a writing bond where they could see what surprises the other had up their sleeve. Brite elaborates further by explaining they wrote Save for the anthology called Youngblood, which was an anthology intended for authors under 30. Fun facts! Here's some information you might not know about Poppy Z. Brite. First off, while many know Poppy Z. Brite as a female author, Brite has successfully transitioned into Billy Martin, so I will respect him by using the pronoun him in this segment. In the early 90s, Brite entered the horror goth scene with classics such as Lost Souls and Drawing Blood. And while he was inspired by multiple sources, in an interview regarding the American South, he cited some names that surprised me considering the sometimes hardcore nature of his work. Among these names were Harper Lee, William Faulkner, and Tennessee Williams. Aside from horror, Brite has written dark comedy such as the Liquor novels. Also, he has written a biography on Courtney Love, which Love cooperated with him during writing. Also, having been a New Orleans resident since 1993, Brite was listed in 2009 as New Orleans' best local author. Now that we have that covered, it's time to move on to the spoilers section of this video. And if you haven't read this book before, you might want to skip this section because I'm going to talk about some things that could ruin the experience for you. If you wish to skip this, just scroll down to the comment section of the video. You'll see that I have a pinned comment at the top, and if you click on the timestamp inside of that comment, it will redirect you away from the spoilers to the thoughts section. Now, you only have 17 seconds to do this, so ready, set, go! Since everyone has had the opportunity to click away, I want to talk about 3 of my favorite stories in this book. And the first one I want to focus on is called Saved. Now, in this story, we're introduced to a kid by the name of Billy. And he has inherited his grandfather's gun after his grandfather has passed away. And after his mom has passed away, he goes to live with, I believe it's his grandmother in Georgia. And as he's living with his grandmother, he is going to church with her, which he's very religious. So he goes to a Baptist church, and throughout this time, as he's growing older, he develops a very strong sexual attraction to firing the gun that he inherited. And he also has developed a sexual attraction to Jesus. Well, after his grandmother passes away, he ends up deciding that he wants to try out some of his fantasies, which by this time he's like in his 20s. So he goes to an S&M magazine and he finds himself a true submissive. And get this, the submissive who he finds is named Jesus. Well, from here they go to a hotel room and they kind of talk about what they're going to do. And so this is all willing and everything. And so he's a virgin. And the thing is with Billy, he doesn't really necessarily know what to expect. He's very inexperienced, and this is just something where it's kind of his opportunity to go balls to the wall. So what he does is, while he is getting serviced by Jesus, he decides to grease up his gun and use it as a sex toy on Jesus. And as he climaxes, he accidentally pulls the trigger and blows Jesus's bowels out. And what's even twisted more so than what I just explained is at the end of the story, after Billy kills himself, you have the cop that comes in and cleans off the gun and then keeps it. And what's so messed up about this is, like, I could totally see that happening. And this honestly feels like it's a good companion story to read with, like, Chuck Palahniuk's Guts, because this one is kind of just darkly comedic. I know it's just really extreme of what I spoke of, but, like, to see how everything goes down and how Brite's writing style works with this, I couldn't help but laugh at what was going on as it was progressing. The next story I want to talk about is called Pin Money, and this one really feels like a speculative fiction piece, but also it feels like a revenge ghost story, as well as what could possibly just be a murder mystery. And due to the openness that's at the end of the story, I was left wondering if the ghost of Nicole had come back and killed Tom, or if the same people who had killed Nicole had come back and killed Tom, or exactly what happened. And it's the mystery to this that I really enjoyed. But to give you some insight on this story, it takes place in the early 1900s, and we are following a prostitute in Paris by the name of Nicole. Well, she ends up relocating, and when she does, she finds this wealthy man by the name of Tom Lee who owns an opium business. And she falls in love with him and wants to marry him, but he doesn't want to marry her. However, he does want a son. So she deliberately gets pregnant by him, hoping that she can bear him a son, and in turn he'll marry her because she is the mother of that child. Well, of course, she does bear a son, and after she does so, he takes the son and has his men kill Nicole, and they do this by shoving a hat pin up her nose. And from here, the story progresses where the son, who is named Parakew, is living with his father Tom, and he ends up getting kicked out of the house by Tom because Tom sees that Parakew has indulged in this same-sex rendezvous, and he's considered that to be a dishonor. Well, all of these years later, his father dies, and when Parakew hears of this, he comes back to his estate, and he sees that his father Tom is laying in the coffin, and he leans over to look at his father, and he sees a dribble of blood coming out of his father's nose. And because of this, we can assume that a hat pin had been used to be rammed up his nose and killed him, such as Nicole. So again, right there, nothing but mystery, and I just loved how everything played out together. The final story I want to talk about is called Self-Made Man. And this is a story that really is a gross out, but at the same time, it has a strong storyline as well as character development. And with this story, we see that there's a character by the name of Justin, and he's very much like Jeffrey Dahmer. And in that regards, he ends up luring young men into his apartment where he attempts to make them into zombies where they can become his sex slaves. Well, as this is being established, a second storyline emerges, and this is in regards to a gay prostitute in Thailand by the name of Suko. And Suko decides that he no longer wants to live in poverty, so he escapes Thailand and moves to America. And while he is just very new to the country, he ends up going to this goth bar called The Stag. And this is where Suko and Justin meet, and of course Justin lures Suko back to his apartment where he tries to make Suko a zombie. Well, of course, he does the lobotomy, and Suko is dead and all that good stuff. But while this is going on, weird things start to happen, such as you have the dead body in Justin's tub that starts to come to and move around. And then you have like these severed heads come out from under the bed and they attack Justin. And then the closet door opens up and there's like this zombified torso that walks itself out by using its hands no differently than feet. And behind the torso you have like just these entrails with blood and shit just going everywhere. And they all tear Justin to hell and back. And while this is going on, you have Suko who comes to and he walks out of the apartment and goes into the night and he discovers that a zombie apocalypse has started. And of course the zombies take him in as one of their own because Suko is now dead. And with this story, like, I just had no idea where it was going next, and the twists and turns that it took, they were something that just kept me reading, and my adrenaline was just pumping, and it's probably my favorite story in the whole book. But even though I just discussed 3 stories here, there are tons of other stories in this book that are just as good. And of course, if I were to talk about all of those, this video would probably be like an hour long. So we'll kind of cover that a little bit more in the thoughts section, where I'll mention all of the stories that were my favorites. But for now, I'd like to move on to the tea time. I want to bitch about the character named Billy from the story Saved. Now, the thing is with this, Billy is a virgin and he has no idea what to actually expect from sex, and up until now, all he's done is just masturbate and whatnot. Well, you know what? Sex is a whole lot better than masturbation, but he has yet to figure that out. So anyway, as the story progresses, he gets him a prostitute and he decides he's going to act on this sick fetish. And the sick fetish, of course, is he wants to put the inherited gun that he got from his grandfather up someone and use it as a dildo. Well, the prostitute is cool with this, and as the story plays out, he's getting pleasured by the prostitute while he is using the gun as a dildo on said prostitute. And after he becomes a little too happy with his climax, he loses control, pulls the trigger, and blows out the prostitute's stomach. And I'm like thinking to myself, you know, I don't care if you're a virgin or if you're experienced. Who in their right mind would put an actual gun up someone else and use it as a dildo? I mean, you know what? I never thought these words would come out of my mouth, but no matter how experienced you are, don't ever use a gun as a dildo, even if there's no bullets in it. There's a good chance that there is a bullet in it, so just don't do it. It's a bad idea. And the thing is, like, if you want to use a gun on someone as a dildo, do something safe. Go out there and get a little water pistol, and hell, even fill it up with water. Make pew-pew sounds as you put it in the person. Whatever, you know, it's not a real gun. And I mean, if a small gun like that, a little small water gun, isn't going to get the trick done, then just go get a super soaker. But for the love of God, don't ever use a real gun as a dildo. Although a lot of people say Brite is nothing more than a horror author, I honestly have to say that with You Loathsome Tonight, I could not categorize Brite in that one genre alone. And due to the surprise and diversity that each of the stories provide, and just how different they are from one end of the spectrum to the other, I would honestly say that Brite is an innovative author. So simply categorizing Brite's work is something that I am unable to do at this point. It might change when I read one of Brite's novels, but as far as the short story collection goes, I really consider this to be innovative fiction. And as far as the stories are concerned, a lot of the stories in here are goth. As a matter of fact, I felt all of the stories were goth, but I think that's in the eye of the beholder. Also, quite a few of the stories do feature same-sex relationships, so that makes this book very suitable for Pride Month. And out of the 12 stories in this book, I really loved 8 of the stories. And that was Invermius Veritas, Saved, Arise, Pin Money, Self-Made Man, Entertaining Mr. Orden, Are You Loathsome Tonight, and Monday Special. Yeah, I had to cheat with a sheet there because 8 stories, couldn't remember all of their titles at once. So yeah, those are the 8 that I enjoyed, and out of a book of 12 stories, there were more good stories than there were bad. So because of that, I really feel that this was a great first read. I really love this book, and the reason why is because I had no idea what I was going to get into with each story. And Brite has a really good talent for creating strong plot, as well as strong character development, and Brite stays away from tropes and stereotypes, which makes this such a more in-depth read. Also, Brite knows when to put a twist in the story. And when that twist comes, it really blew me out of the water because I honestly just did not see it coming. So because of all of those reasons, I really adored this book. And if you've never read Brite before, I would recommend this as a first read. And overall, I highly do recommend you read this book because it was honestly a lot of fun and I could not put it down. On to the questions. My first question is, what is a good horror book you would recommend by a transgendered author? And my second question is, how do you celebrate Pride Month? Personally, I don't like being around big crowds, so I really just kind of stay at home and celebrate in my own little way. I end up watching movies, reading books, and listening to music by those who are a part of the GLBTQ plus community, and also those who are allies of that community as well. And I'm always trying to broaden my horizons. So that's really what I do. But with that said, it's now time to close out the video. And before I do, I would like to say thank you to Lisa G and Joseph Baylott for contributing to my Patreon account. If you would like to contribute to that account as well, the link is in the description section of this video. And I have 2-tier options that you can choose from. For $5 a month, I'll give you a shout out at the end of my videos. And if you're a creator, I'll mention what you create as well. And for the $10 tier, you get those same benefits, but also I do creepy photography on the side, so once a month I'll send you over a photo. If you can do this, that's great. If not, whatever, that's cool. I just hope you continue coming back to this page and us having fun together. And also, I would like to say, if you have yet to subscribe to this channel or click the notifications bell, please do so. I have tons of other videos coming in the near future. And if you would like to connect with me on social media, I do have links to my Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, all in the description section as well. So until we see each other again, I hope you're having a wonderful week and sweet nightmares.